Hello and welcome back to Kim Talks. I'm your host, Kim Hayden, and I am super excited as we talk resilience and moving forward, growing forward, leaning forward, and just loving life. And who better to help us today is Batoul. Batoul is here to share kind of her insight around her book that she has written is Ditching Success. I love that. Ditching Success. So she's going to have a very different kind of perspective on how to live a full life and everything that she's learned in her journey. Now, do note, she is a through and through entrepreneur. Even though she received her architectural degree and worked a few years, she got kind of like, what's next? So at 24, just 24, she dove into entrepreneurialism and co-founded her first company. And then she's helped grow into a multi-international IT corporation before having to ditch her career at the very height of it. Batoul is passionate about sharing her 30 years of experience as a career woman in a male-dominated business world and a professional who moved from workaholic to burnout to life reinvented. She hopes by sharing her own journey, she can help others struggling to find their answers. Hello, Batoul. Welcome.
Hey, Kim. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So did I get all that? Did I get it all right?
That was pretty good.
Awesome. So this is again the beauty of our global world and where we're moving in the age of knowledge is that I'm here in Calgary, Alberta, and Batoul, whereabouts are you?
Well, I am in Amman, Jordan, a small country in the Middle East.
Amazing. And you're born and raised, correct?
Born and raised in Jordan. That's true. I've done quite a bit of traveling, business, and as a tourist. I love traveling. So I've been around for a while. I've been in the US as an exchange student when I was 16. Stayed there for a year in California. Loved it. Loved every minute of it. Had a great time. And since then, I'm here. But I've done quite a lot of travel.
Amazing. Now you okay, so let's we're going to frame up what brought you to becoming a published author. So let's take a step back. Take us kind of in that journey of who and how you moved through the last 30 years and what has brought you to this point in your life. So share with us a little bit about your background.
Okay. So as you said, I'm an architect. Worked as an architect for about just a little less than 2 years before I figured out it was not quite as challenging as I wanted it to be. Although architecture is challenging in general, but in Jordan at that time, and I'm talking end of 80s, there were still quite small projects here and there. So I wasn't quite challenged, and I've been known to love a challenge. So I got an opportunity to, with a few colleagues actually, to start a new company, and I just jumped to it. And the funny thing is that the company was in computer graphics and animation, which has nothing to do with architecture other than it being in the design field. And that was in 1989.
Yeah, and that would have been back before that was part of our lingo.
Exactly.
Right? That would have been cutting edge at that time.
It was, and it was actually, that company was the very first professional computer graphics and animation company in our region in the Middle East. So that was quite a challenge because we had to do a lot of educating the public and the clients and what computer graphics and animation can actually do for you. Working with that, it was quite a trip. A few years later, the company got acquired by an IT company that was also just started at around the same time. And I went along with the package, sort of the package of the company. And then I started working I managed that it became a member of a group. I managed that group for a few for that sorry that member, so my company, for a few years, and then I moved to sort of handling the business development for the whole group. And this is when we started, working as a group, growing internationally in several countries, into different products. It was a software company, so an IT solutions provider. That's, again, something completely new to me. But I enjoyed doing all the business development. I always enjoy learning. I love learning. It's always, got, I've always been so excited about everything new that I can come, to. And so that was that. And 30 years into that, a lot
Okay,
of work.
so you jump from architecture, which is finding the issue and creating a solution. Architecture is a pretty robust, and then you go into the first field, and then that emerges into the second field, and this is all frontline. And so, how do you go from I want to consume everything, I want to grow, I want to challenge the world, I want to have all this energy and make stuff happen, to burnout? And that, like, seriously, like, how do we like, what does that look like, so that way I know if I'm there?
Oh, I'll give you a few tips to know if you're there or not in a while. Uh, you do a lot of that nonstop, what you just said, for 30 years, day and night, weekends, vacations, holidays. You work, work, work all the time. And if you're committed, as I was, and I still am committed about anything I do, it gets to you. It gets to you. I did not know it. I didn't realize what was going on. This is the whole thing. You don't realize what's going on. You just think you're just tired. It's just fatigue. It's just, I just need a weekend off. I just need a few days off, a vacation. But when it doesn't happen, when it doesn't do it for you, time after time after time, and you start suffering from so many different symptoms of burnout, it just gets to you after a while, and you lose it. It changes you, Kim. It really changes you.
What were some of the symptoms that you identified? And then I want to dive into the book and how the book helped move you through. So
Sure.
tell me what some of the symptoms were for you.
Sure. Well, if I can just summarize them in 5 points, okay, or 5 different categories, say. So one is emotional. And I think this is one of the triggers that hits you at the beginning, that when you start figuring out something is just not right, it's just more than that. That's when your mood, your swings, you're angry, you become a different person. You're not happy, okay, and you feel it. All these emotions just are all over the place. There's the physical aspect, of course. The physical aspect can take you from continuous headaches to high blood pressure to sweating all the time, cold sweat. You can't sleep anymore. Your heart rate goes up the roof all the time. And you're just not feeling, and the fatigue and everything is just, everything is wrong inside of you. Okay. But again, it's just, there's nothing really wrong there. Okay. Then there's the mental aspect. So the mental aspect is when your memory starts deteriorating. Okay. Your short-term memory for sure. But when you start talking in a sentence, and in the middle of a sentence, you face a block, have no idea what you were talking about. Okay. Continuous sentence block right there in the middle of it. That happens. Your mental abilities, your focus is really not as it used to be. Your attention span is not like it used to be, and all of that gets into the physical and of course the emotional. The spiritual aspect, your spirit, you are down. Your spirit is down. You are negative. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to be with anyone. It's just all of it together. And add to that the fifth element, which is the psychological element. Okay, you are depressed. You become depressed. And the thing is, all of this together happens. It changes you inside and out. It infects your mind, body, and soul until you know that you have become a different person, and you start hating yourself. And that's when it happens. You realize something's not right. You can't enjoy a day off. You cannot enjoy what you used to love, your work, your passion. My work was my passion for 30 years. When I started waking up in the morning and wanting to not go to work anymore, hating the idea of having to go to work, that was it.
Okay, so I think a lot of people are where you were at. A lot of people. I think a lot of people, especially over the last few years with the pandemic and not having mobility, right? We
Yeah.
can't find the relief through, a
Mm.
lot of people
No.
haven't been able to find relief through going to a gym or travel to visit family or any of these other things. So I think we're seeing higher rates of this feeling of burnout and so forth and so on. And we're starting to see that in numbers where people are not going back to the corporate jobs.
Yeah.
So this is where I want to dive into ditching success. Can you share with us first, give us an overview as to what the book is and what you offer within it? And then we're going to walk through, if you know you're at that burnout rate, are you at the point of where you need to find your own ditching success? Does that make sense? So can you
Sure.
first share with us an overview of your book and then what your journey was to create that book?
Sure. Sure. So Ditching Success is a memoir. It actually is about how I turned from a workaholic, and I described this part of me that was a workaholic before I even started, in school and all of that, moving from workaholic to extreme burnout and the journey in between of establishing the company, having to do what I had to do all that time, and then moving to that strange feelings and strange behavior that I've ended up in without realizing it. Going through all that, I share the moments that I decide I make the choice to let go before I was supposed to be ready. Okay, because I had to. I had no other choice. I describe all of that. And then I go into the part of after. And the after is very interesting because to a workaholic, it is a killer to just say, I'm stopping work and I'm have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm literally going into the unknown, leaping into the unknown, the unfamiliar, because I need to take a break before it is too late for me. That journey alone, that period after you let go and before you even know what's going on and before you find your purpose again, is a state of confusion. And I describe it a lot. I'm supposed to have gone into retirement. Okay. And that alone is a journey, which, because I wasn't ready for it. Okay. But I had to. And describing that state you're in, that limbo state you're in. Okay. And then having to change all of that because of the pandemic and what happens in the pandemic. It changed my whole plans of what I wanted to do in my retirement. So all of this goes into the book. The whole idea look, the whole idea of the book came about. I've always wanted to write, okay, but I wasn't. It's nothing. It's nothing like I wanted a career out of writing. It was just I wanted to write, and I never got the chance to do it. The whole idea of the book, when I finished work, I thought, okay, I'm going to start writing at some point. The whole idea of the book came about when one of my colleagues, at one point, I went and visited the company, and one of my colleagues asked me, "So how's it going? How are you doing now that you're retired and relaxed and all of that?" I could not answer him because I was happy, but I was sad. I was excited and thrilled, but I was confused. I wanted to do everything, and at the same time, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to do anything. It was all these feelings together that just went through my mind just to be able to answer the guy of a simple question of how are you doing now? So that moment I thought, you know what? I'm just going to write about my experience and hopefully help those that are going through what I went through, because I didn't find anyone that helped me at that point. Okay. And hopefully that'll be at least something of an experience to share with them.
The memoir approach is really interesting. I talked to another gal who she's just released a book, and it was From Mom with Love. So it's about, it's actually the memoirs of all of her contact with her daughter as her daughter was going through cancer.
Oh,
and so it's but it's interesting because you're talking about a very pivotal point of your life. And you opened up the book and you said to everybody, come on in and learn what you can. So when you keep talking about retirement, and I can't see you sitting still. I have a feeling there's a lot in you there. So if somebody's picked this book up, they're in the same position. So we're seeing a lot of women in their 40s right now who are going, I don't think I want to go back to that corporate job. But there's this huge shift from being a corporate employee to becoming an entrepreneur. And there's a lot of people have a real challenge shifting their mindset, their accountability, how they align people around them. So if somebody's hitting hardcore burnout, they don't want to go back to that corporate office.
Yeah.
Where do you think that they can glean some insight as to what they need to do next step in your book? Like, what are some specific things that you share within your book that maybe could help others?
Okay. When I describe it's actually in the second part of the book where I describe what I went through from the moment I left work. There are two stages before you actually reach to where you want to reach. The first stage is sort of like when you detach from whatever you were doing before. And it's a period of self-reflection that you have to go through. Just do whatever it is you wanted to do nothing, stare into thin air. I binge watched The Little House on the Prairie.
I love
200 episodes of it in a whole month. And you ask me why? Because from the corporate life that I was in, with all the complexities and sophistication and the business and the suits and the investors and all of that, okay, I wanted simplicity and innocence and the good old days and all of that. It's just a flip through that I had to do. And it took my time with it. I sat in the garden doing nothing. I traveled just for a little while before the pandemic hit and all of that. So, but it was a period of self-reflection that I was going through. Okay. And it didn't end the moment I started my next phase, but it sort of helps you do whatever you want to do. Okay. Organize, write things down. I share in the book. I don't share it in the sort of a self-help. No, I just say whatever I did. Okay. And it really helped me. I wrote everything down, every single idea that came to my mind. Small, big, silly, serious, business, fun, hobby, everything that came in mind. I just wrote it down. Okay, it was like a dump, and that helped me come up with new things that I always wanted to do. Okay, and then you start thinking more of, okay, do I want to go on doing this or not? Do I just want to play around with it? Okay, play around with it for a while and see if you want to do it or not. Things you enjoy. This is the whole thing. Things you want to do. Okay, and take your time doing it. The next phase is your exploration. Okay, so you go through the reflection and then you go through the exploration, which is that. I did a bit of that here and there, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Took my time with it until I learned German. I reached a C1 level, went to classes with kids that have just graduated from high school, and that was pretty embarrassing.
Oh, but
Uh,
they probably thought you were pretty cool. I find that a lot of
uh,
times those younger kids, they see somebody old coming in, they go, "Oh, you must be cool," because you know what? You're never too old to learn. How many
Sure.
languages do you speak?
Okay, so Arabic is my first language. English is my second language. French used to be my third language until I learned German. So German is now my third, and French is my fourth.
Wow. Okay. Coming from American, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Right.
I find that Europe and Middle Eastern countries are far more progressive when it comes to multiple
Language.
languages.
Sure. True.
Absolutely.
True.
So, okay, back to the book. So we've gone through this because I mean, I do think that timing wise, this is a very good book because I think we're seeing huge shifts happening, right? So back to the book. Sorry, I totally interrupted them.
No problem. So after you go through the second phase of exploration, you will end up with some idea about what you want to do. Now, the beauty about the time we're living in right now is what we did not have a few years back. Okay, just a few years back with technology. And I have to say, what the pandemic did is really help uh, grow globalization to a point like never before.
Yeah.
There's so many opportunities out there. Anyone, and I say anyone, regardless of education, where you are, how old you are, what your interests are, anyone can and will find something to do online.
I
This,
absolutely agree. What was
there
it,
is
Bill?
just so much out there.
Well, Bill Gates actually said that the pandemic, he said this at like month number 9 of all the lockdowns. He said that we had actually moved forward a decade in our use and our connections of technology in just that 1 year. Right. So, and I totally agree with you that there's, so many opportunities. And even like with a book like Ditching Success, having an online course opportunity with it that literally further breaks it down, shows us your book that has all the different ideas, your dump book, right? Like, how do you create that? How do you embrace even the silly ideas, right?
Oh, there's so much comes out of the silly ideas. So
Yeah.
much. Yeah, yeah, so much. Because look, there's no such thing as a silly idea. It could be small, big. It could be something that you do now, or something that's out there in the back of your head, and you could do later on. It's just keep an open mind when you go through this.
Absolutely.
Keep an open mind. This is the whole thing, and have faith, believe in yourself, because only then
Yeah.
you will be confident enough to know that you can do it. And hey, what could go wrong? You're done with your work.
You absolutely. You know what? I tell people all the time, go ahead and ask. And they go, "Oh, well, I don't know." Go ahead and ask. You're already sitting at no. You're already sitting at no. And I 100% agree with that. I talk to a lot of people in regards to uniqueness, right? So Shakespeare said there's only 7 original storylines, and yet look at
Well,
all the content out there, right? And that is because each time you present, the person who's presenting, the person who is like you, Batul, who's willing to step out in front and say, "Hey, this is what I've experienced. This is how I felt," and you release the shame or the uncomfortableness around it, and you invite people into your storyline. It's not that your storyline is any different than 200 other books or
True.
200 other speakers. It's that it's your uniqueness within your voice, and how you deliver that is what will connect with others. And this is,
Yeah.
I really challenge so many people to step up and lead, because right now we have like 10 people that dominate the stages, right? You don't get the opportunity to hear from the plethora of thought leadership out there,
True.
because you have the few people sucking up the oxygen. Or is it that people are uncomfortable stepping in to that space of thought leadership because they go, well, somebody else is already doing it. Yeah, somebody else is already doing it, but they're not doing it from your lens, from your perspective, from your language.
And the
So
pie's big. And the
the
pie's big.
pie is huge.
Yeah.
The pie
True.
is huge,
Yeah.
right? And if you say, "Oh, well, there's not enough," it's like bake another pie, bake another pie, right? Uh,
Exactly. Exactly.
so what would it be a thought or something that you would impart if somebody is watching this and they identify that they're in burnout, but there is a fear because of, personal revenue, the realities of the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what would be your advice for that person?
Well, if they have reached a point of, say, no return in terms of their current job, career, whatever it is, I would say staying in there does not help anyone, neither them, neither the family, and not work, not their job for sure, because you become ineffective. That's it. Leave it, ditch it.
Yeah.
Okay, have courage and ditch it. Now, if you're in a situation where the financials are something of real critical aspect, I would say try to get a job, and I mean a job. Okay,
Mhm.
something to keep you going while you're self-reflecting and exploring. Okay, if you need that, something to keep you going with the minimum. Okay,
Yeah.
step down in your lifestyle a little bit for that period until you know where you're headed, and then go for it. If you could just take a break without having to work, then that's great. 6 months, a year, a couple of years, maybe. It took me a while, and it took me 2 years before I started to actually write the book. But I took my time, okay? And so I really advise that because the it, it the journey will take you to an unexpected place. Seriously, I did not expect the things I went through. It's not just where I am today, it's the whole journey of what you discover, of things you have. I'm not saying your regrets. I never have regrets in my life. There's a time and place for everything. Okay.
Mhm.
But at that point in time, I had to change personalities again, change beliefs in terms of work was everything to me. I promoted, I encouraged, I mentored people to work, and do nothing but work. And then all of a sudden I go through this and I have to flip. I felt like a hypocrite. I felt like, you know, how would people believe me now if I say that? Because I used to say that all the time, right?
But okay, so let's growth. Good is the enemy of great. And if
Mhm.
your good is starting to grate, maybe you need to step back so you can create great, right? So you know what I'm
100%.
saying? Like you really have to.
100%.
So Batul, can you share with us where our audience can find you and how can they buy your book?
Okay, so the book's available on Amazon. It's available in ebook and in print. It can be, found on Amazon, different markets. I also encourage people to go into my website. That's Batoul Ajlouni author.com. That's Batoul Ajlouni author.com. Sign up for my mailing list, so you just stay updated, and you can find the links to my book over there, links to my social media pages, and I'll be adding more and more about the different opportunities that I may get into, and
Come over to the dark side. It's all right, Batoul. There's lots of us out here, and leadership is desperately needed. Leadership is desperately needed. And thank you. Thank you for stepping out of your space of safe or norm or whatever, and grabbing this and sharing very intimate and very great insight to help people navigate. Because like I said, I think it's more important today than we've ever seen, because I think people
100%.
are waking up going, there's got to be options.
100%.
All right.
One
So
thing I
everybody,
always sorry,
go ahead.
one thing I truly believe in. There's a very nice quote that I like by John Burroughs. It says, "Leap and the net will appear."
I agree with that.
Believe.
Leap and the net will appear. I absolutely agree. Somebody, you got to just make that first step.
Yeah.
You got to make that first step.
Yeah.
All right. So, folks, until next time, please, please, please like, comment, share, subscribe. We need your support so we can keep these resilient women out there sharing and caring and helping us lead forward in a better world. Again, thank you, Batoul.
Thank you, Kim. That was a pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome.